Hello and welcome to the stream. We're gonna get into it. Let's get into it. Let's do some John Titor, the third facts sent to Art Bell on June 29th, 1998. There's only, I tried to find second facts, but I keep pulling that down. So we have the first facts where I already uploaded, and then this will be the third facts. And let's see what into.
Scotia is covered in nuclear snow from their collapsed reactors. The reason I'm here now is because I believe a nuclear weapon set off by Iraq in the Middle East war with Israel might have something to do with the timeline. I will test that theory and get back to you. Please pray that we discover the reason why there is no apparent future after 2564. So I couldn't resist. I thought that was quite a good facts. There you have it. Why? Good morning, around the world, in all the world's time zones, covered by this program, Midnight in the Desert. I'm Mark Bell, and it's Friday. Now, 18 to 20 years ago, just about a year ago, I interviewed a young man, and he was named Martin. Well, unfortunately, the Madman Martin. And that is affectionate too. I call him Madman because the things he was proposing to do, I thought would give him cooked like a French fry. And to do that, I have, thanks to my producer, Heather Wade, located Madman. We've got him secreted away to a very special location where he can do an interview. That's right, Madman Markham. Mike Markham is here. Thank God. Frankly, I thought he had toasted himself, and of course you can't ever rule that out with this young man. So that's where we're going tonight. We're going to interview Madman Markham. What an incredible, incredible find. Just a couple of things. My usual Skype lecture. No, you don't get away from that. I'll try and make it short. One great way to call us, whether you're in North America or the world, is by Skype. If you have a smartphone, and most do now, download Skype. It's free. Go to your toy store or your update center or whatever and download Skype. When you do that, don't go to the place where you dial the phone. Go to add contact. That's usually a little plus symbol that you want to find. Add a contact. You add us. If you're in North America, Canada, or America, you add MITD 51. Midnight in the Desert 51, MITD 51. And then we will appear in your list of contacts. Simple as that. You can press a button in your contacts and call us. And it will sound really good. Same deal outside of North America, anywhere else in the rest of the world, only you put in MITD 55. Midnight in the Desert, MITD. Just the initials, upper or lowercase, doesn't matter. 55. All right. That said, let's see, what else? Anything else is critical. I want to thank everybody. I usually thank Telos, Titor, Heather, especially Heather Wade tonight. Stream Guys, LV.net, Sales, Pete Everhard, TuneIn Radio, Leo Ashcraft for Dark Matter News. Of course, my wife and my daughter who put up with my being gone and working a lot of the day. That said, in a moment, coming up is a man that you probably haven't heard, maybe on tape. A lot of people have reviewed the interview of Madman years ago. But certainly you have not heard him in years. So coming up in a moment, the man who traveled in time. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, you'll learn tonight, he really did travel in time. Midnight in the Desert. I'm Marcel, and we are watching tonight. Oh, by the way, I found 51 on Twitter. You made your appearance for the winner. If I get news, so I the listeners hungry package your way on the 500 Digital Network. To call the show, please select your phone digits to dial 1-952-225-5278. That's 1-952 all parts. Relax. Don't listen to that. Don't call yet. We will get to a portion of the program titled Where. Right, we'll take questions because that won't be now, so I'm not wasting your time. Let's go to the secret location. Somewhere in the country, and we'll say, Mike, welcome to Mike at Desert. No, 20 years ago, right? The first interview and 18 years ago? Yeah, something like that. Something like that. All right. Mike, it's hard to know where to begin with you. Even back then it was hard. You connected, I think, with us. Probably we were doing like an open line thing on time travel. Is that how we got together? It's been a long night. I remember. Well, probably is. I remember, right? Somebody asked you a newspaper article and you basically hunted me down. So, that's right. I hunted you down like a dog. Okay. So at that moment, when I found you, Mike, and I do, you know, I use affectionately, right? Yeah, that's not man, so it's kind of stuck though, huh? Yeah. So anyway, well earned, really. When I found you at that moment, you were experimenting, the beginnings of experimental time travel. And you sort of laid it out for me. So if you can remember how you began, tell us. Well, way back when, basically, I did originally I did set up to make a fancy Jacob's ladder. So basically, everybody, 2 metal rods sparkling up in the high voltage, sparkling up the middle. That's basically like the old Frankenstein movies or whatever. Right, that was the first step, and then, if I recall correctly, you then modified it with lasers. Yeah, basically, I wanted to do something a little bit different, so I decided to basically take a laser and have the laser ignite the arc. So, okay, so if I remember correctly, the original one was about how tall? Not that tall. Yeah, it wasn't all that powerful. I mean, it was. I used clothes hanger wires, so I think it was something like a couple kilowatts. Yeah, I had no way to measure the laser power, but it was hot enough. I mean, it was hot enough to where it lowered the resistance of the air to get an arc started. So, and that arc was about how big? 20,000 volts at about 100 milliamps. So. Probably at the longest at the top before it extinguished, probably 7 or 8 inches long. All right. Now, with that early experiment, Mike, was there that little thing that you were above the Jacob's ladder? Yeah, it didn't exactly work as I expected it would. Basically, what happened was when I fired the laser, the spark stuff where the laser was, and right above it, there was like a little shimmering mirage effect, like anything like a road in the desert, I guess you could say. Sure. But this was like a small circular spherical flash, spherical. So I ended up like, whoa, this looks strange. So basically, I was wondering, well, okay, what am I looking at here? So what have I done? Yeah, so I decided to test it because I still had some parts lying around. I decided to throw it, toss a screw into it, and see what if anything happened. Toss a screw into the little circular shimmering thing. It was above the ladder. Yeah, I mean, it was almost. I almost didn't notice it. I mean, basically, it was almost invisible. So. But anyhow, I tossed it in there and the screw disappeared. And then roughly half a second later or so, it reappeared where it was normally landing. So obviously, being a scientist, you thought, I'm sure, I'm probably nuts and I missed it. And so you tried it again, I'm sure, right away. Oh, yeah, I tried it several times and I had the same thing, it did the same thing every time. And I'm like, whoa, I gotta get a video, I gotta get a camcorder and record this thing. And it's about not even 10 seconds within that thought, my laser overheated and basically caught fire. So, where did you get the laser? I mean, at this early stage, you had no money really. So yeah, where do you get the laser? The only reason why I'm doing things on the cheap like this, things tend not to last very long, and that's basically what happened. The laser overheated. I more or less salvaged. It was a diode laser out of a CD player. So. Okay. At this point, you had not yet had your run-in with the law, right? Yeah. So, but long story short, basically, I ended up like, well, if I got to rebuild this thing, let's go ahead and make it bigger. Right. So, what you had, sort of, I guess there were some salvageable parts, but the laser was all on. Yeah, it's like, okay, I could probably just use a CO2 laser. I mean, those tend to be high powered to begin with, expensive, but at least it will last longer. I do have this question. Did you come to a conclusion, after throwing that through a few times, about what was happening to it? Well, I mean, at first I'm thinking, okay, maybe did I just see what I think I saw? And at first I couldn't basically, it's like, am I going nuts? Of course. Did I have hallucination? But yeah, I mean, at first I was thinking, okay, maybe I'm just making it invisible or whatever. But then basically I didn't hear it hit the table. So if it's like cloaking it or whatever, it was cloaking the sound too. Right. So at this point, Mike, were you endeavoring to do some kind of time travel? Is that what you thought you were doing, or did you not know what you were doing? Well, I mean, basically, like I said, when I first discovered this, I was just making a fancy Jacob's Ladder / light show. So okay. I didn't set out to actually go out and build a time machine. It's like, I'm going to build a time machine. Let's try this. Right. And that's not the way it happens. So. This is the way great experiments are formed. It starts off like this. So here you are, a burned up laser. You need more parts. You need more power. Yeah. Obviously, the screw had to have gone somewhere. I mean, did you even begin to theorize and think, well, where in the hell did that thing go? Yeah, I mean, at first I was thinking maybe I was made invisible, but then thought, well, if it was just invisible, I'd still hear it. See, this whole contraption was basically sitting on a makeshift table on a 4x8 sheet of plywood. So, even invisible is cool, right? Yeah, I mean, they can actually do that these days with metamaterials, but not in 1995, so that would have been a major discovery anyway. So, sure. So either way, it's cool. Time travel. What disappearing, becoming invisible, going to a different spot, all of it is cool, and you can't account for it with any known science that I'm aware of. So anyway, you decided you needed bigger and stronger and more powerful everything. Yeah, and well, long story short, I mean, the transformer I used for this, I wound myself. I'm surprised that didn't catch fire too, because only at the time, back in 1995, I didn't have internet access. So basically, if I wanted to learn how to do something, I had to learn trial and error. I mean, if I built something and it blew up, I knew not to build it that way. Yeah, finding yourself is problematic. Well, these days I have internet access. I mean, the basic formulas to build a transformer have been around since the 1840s. But in 1995, with no internet access, I didn't know about the universal EMF equation. So that's basically where you start. So, and if I was going, and well, before I had internet access, I was trying to call around and ask Yeah, how do I build this thing? Like call around and ask the transformer factories, yeah, I want to build this transformer. How do I do it? What components do I use? They didn't want to tell me that. They wanted to sell me a transformer. So, of course. So you ended up just winding your own. Yeah, through trial and error. Okay, well, obviously you needed more oomph. You needed more power. And I guess that's when, and bear in mind, folks, at that, how old were you then, Mike? 21. 21. You're 21 years old, and I think, were you working then? I don't think you were. Yeah, actually, I was working at the local, I don't even remember the name of the industrial lumber sales, I think was the name of the place, but that's right. But not rich. No, not by a long shot. Okay. So at some point, your 21-year-old brain said, transformer, where can I get a transformer or two? And that's, I guess, when you came up with the idea of looking around for a spare power company transformer. Yeah, I mean, basically, it's like, well, I need more KVAs. It's like, oh, that's whole transformer. Those are powerful enough. They certainly are. So, anyhow, there's King City. At the time, I was living in Stanbury, Missouri, and King City, about maybe 10 or 12 miles south of there. There was like half a dozen of them just sitting outside the fence in the substation that powers all King City. It's just outside the substation, so it's like, obviously not in use at the time. No. I mean, I've heard of people actually attempting to take them off hold, and I've never heard of a successful attempt from that. It's not a good idea at all. And these were just what, sitting on the ground? Putting on like a little makeshift fence outside the fence. Obviously, I guess they were used for spares. Some of them were just taken out of service due to their age. So. Sure. And you saw them sitting there, and they were saying to you, come here, Mike, get me. And it's like, well, if the utility book and utility aren't going to use them, I can't. So you loaded up, what did you do? Take a truck over there? I paid basically a friend slash coworker of mine. He had a pickup truck, so I basically paid him basically $100 to drive down there and help me pick these things up. Because these things aren't light. I mean, when the utility picks them up on the crane to do it, they weigh like 250, 350 pounds each, so they're not light. How did you even get them up on the truck? I guess it took, how many of you? 3 of us. Basically, it was him, basically him and a friend of his and me. So, well, and it was still basically a struggle to get him in there. So, but we managed. So, Mike, the police would usually call those people co-conspirators or something else. Yeah, I mean, I was basically, I'm one of those. Basically told them, hey, I'm the mastermind. Don't basically, well, of course, they're not going to, don't take that into consideration, but they're not going to say, oh, you're the main guy that did it. They're just going to let everybody else go. Anyway, yeah, you got away with them, right? I ended up doing the most time, but they didn't get off scot-free. I see. Yeah, you did do some time. There's no question about that. So you got these transformers and you got them back to your apartment? I was living in a house. In a house, okay. Yeah. And how long did you have the transformers before, on the door? Probably, I'm going from rough memory here. I want to say like anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, maybe. Oh, 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, so I remember taking him in January and getting arrested like at early February. I got arrested January 29th. Actually, and they when I took those. Well, I don't know the exact date. Sure, that's fine. I'm now interested in the time between when you got them to your house and you got arrested. Were you able to actually fire one up? Yeah, I mean, kind of sort of. Basically, one of them I couldn't use with the rest of them because eventually I was going to basically wire them all together. Well, I couldn't use. There was like half a dozen of them because like I was only going to take a couple on. I figured, basically, if I get busted, this won't be about the same amount of time no matter what anyway. So that's why we had to take the rest. That's why I got greedy. So, Well, and tell people a transformer of this sort that goes on a pole typically converts 14,000, 15,000 volts. It depends on what kind of pole it is.
Yeah. Well, that's one. Yeah. I mean, that's the reason I couldn't use one of them, so I ended up converting it into a piggy bank. So, because it was an old one. I mean, it's only rated at 2,400 volts. 2,400 volt lines in forever.
Yeah.
Like 50 years.
So the one that you actually used was what?
A bunch of them were 7,200, 4,470 wide.
So you're basically taking batteries and then putting them in series.
Yeah, what they do is set my voltage down to 240 for your house. But I was basically 240 on it, 12,000 out of it.
That's right. And I'm going, I guess, so you did only one, or did you actually have them?
Eventually, I was going to wire them basically the other. I was going to had 3 more of them, basically. So I get like 50,000 volts out of it. I never did that. No, I ended up getting busted.
Okay. But you did do, I guess you got to do one or some experiments with one transformer, one of them?
Yep, and well, basically these days I know to use some sort of ballast or whatever, because if you short it out without a ballast, it'll draw about 20 times what it's rated for.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it was a 25 kVA transformer. I mean, no, that one was sitting in the living room. I was only using it. I think a 10 kVA was on the back porch all the time. So, but without a ballast, 10 kVA that's 200,000 watts. So
That's right.
anyhow, when you draw that kind of power, you end up crashing a good sized chunk of the grid. I didn't crash it all together, but I was drawing out a good sized chunk of the town. So,
which they didn't pop you for, right?
Just believe it or not, that is not exactly what cut the. Basically, I mean, they knew something. What the heck's going on with the power grid? That's what the local utility supervisor was wondering what the heck's happening.
But you didn't do jail time for that.
No, well, it was, yeah, I mean, it was for the theft. It wasn't because I was basically making the power grid go nuts.
Okay, well, tell me, when you, let's see, where to go? Slow down, Art. You obviously had to feed all that voltage and current to a new Jacob's ladder that you had put together, right?
Yeah, and I couldn't use clothes hanger wire for that because it simply melt the wire because it was, yeah, I mean, it was at 12,000 volts at several amps. So.
Okay, so what are you using now for the ladder?
I think it was like half-inch metal rod. So,
good idea.
So yeah.
Good idea. Okay, and what about lasers? Did you still fire it with a laser?
Well, that's another thing too. Basically, what I ended up doing was I ended up rebuilding the CD laser. I guess you could say. Actually, what I did is I ended up starting another one. Just got another CD player. So. And what I was eventually I was going to do, it's like, oh, here's a CO2 laser tube that this guy had, and I was like, I'm going to end up eventually saving my money and buy that, but there's like $1,000 that was going to take a while. So,
yeah. So, all right, you fire this one up, and that's the point where you sort of denigrated the grid of the town.
Yeah, basically it was browning
out the town.
Yeah, well, not the whole town. At first I thought it was the whole town, but as many complaints I was hearing at work, it's like, hey, because I was basically all my coworkers were saying, hey, you got to be careful about that. My lights were going out. And basically this guy was like several blocks from me, so it wasn't like a local area. So,
yeah, those kind of power outages are really bad. The brownouts kind of can damage stuff.
Yeah, I was like, well, the 120 volt outlets was dropping down to 80 or 90, so that's good. And they were basically the utility supervisor was going around town asking all the industrial people
what they were doing.
Yeah, if they were doing any heavy welding or whatever. So
the power company would know sort of the general area from which this problem was emanating.
Yeah, well, I mean, Stanbury's a small town at the time. If I remember, it only had like maybe not even 1,000 people in it. So it's the only thing to have stuff like. So.
Certainly not that is fair. All right, so Mike, what happened with this bigger ladder?
Well, I mean, as far as making things disappear with it, I'm not sure. I mean, I didn't really have to basically get a chance to do a lot with it before I ended up getting busted.
Oh my.
So, but I did make a couch disappear, but I didn't. That's the weird part is basically a couch disappeared, but I didn't see him, but I didn't talk to him the couch, and the thing wasn't on at the time when it disappeared. So.
Well, what else can you possibly attribute to missing couch to?
Well, I mean, at the time it disappeared, I did have a few friends over, and basically, I mean, we were had like a little. Yeah, I mean, basically, it's like, at first I thought they were playing a prank on me because they knew about it at the time before the media caught wind of what I was doing. I only told like four or five of my closest friends about it. So.
All right, so how did you get busted? Did they knock on the door suddenly? I mean,
what happened was basically a relative of a friend of mine, and he's not exactly basically a genius. He decided to take a BB gun. A friend of mine said, basically loaned me his BB gun or whatever.
Yeah.
And well, this other friend, basically a relative of a friend of mine, basically I had him over. I can't remember what the heck he was there for, but anyhow, long story short, he finds a BB gun and decides to shoot birds with it. And when he was doing that, he wasn't thinking of what was behind the birds, and he ended up shooting a couple of holes across in the neighbor's sliding glass door across the street.
Oh, yeah.
I've been calling it vandalism. Vandalism, and that got him snooping around. So.
Did you call the cops?
No, it wasn't me. The neighbor that basically ended up with a few DD holes in their glass door.
Yeah, I can imagine they were close. I'm sorry. Looks like Mike, stay right where you are. You're doing great.
Midnight sweeps across America. You found an oasis line to call Midnight in the Desert. Please dial 1-952. Call Earth. That's 1-952-225-5278.
Do not call yet. Repeat, do not call yet. Just rest and listen. My guest is Mike Madman Markham, addressing the legend properly. Mike, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Art.
All right, so here we are, somebody with a BB gun committing vandalism. Somebody calls the cops come, look at the vandalism, and then how do they get you?
These transformers, they're pretty big. They're about the size of a trash can. So they're kind of, I mean, I guess, I don't know if the local utility already reported the transformer stolen or whatever, but I think that everybody has a transformer, like a utility pole transformer sitting in their living room. So they're probably wondering what the heck is going on here.
So they were able to look in. What did they knock on your door? I mean,
they came in with a search warrant searching for a BB gun, and I guess they were. Well, that was actually. I think if I remember right, the transformers were on the search warrant too. So and it ain't no effort to hide them. So.
Well, I don't know where you put them. I don't know where you put them, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, so long story short, I basically got busted red-handed. So.
Okay. All right, so in you go. They sweat you, I'm sure, for your buddies' names and all that kind of stuff. And then eventually you have a court date, right?
Yeah. Ended up doing 6 days in jail and 5 years probation.
So 5 years probation. And that brings another thing to mind.
I mean, it was a Class C felony, which is causing the value of it. So.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I remember your parole officer actually called my show.
Yeah, it was actually the arresting officer, Tom, his name. I can't remember.
He's actually a good guy.
So yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, it's a small town. Everybody knew everybody long before all this went down. So
Okay, well, so he's part of the legend now.
yeah, and I didn't, yeah, it's like, and I didn't make basically a resist arrest. Basically, we don't hold, and he was just doing his job, so I don't hold his grudge against him. So
Yeah.
so
So the power company gets their transformers back. You go away for 60 days. That must have screwed up your life, but good. Because by then, I don't know, you probably don't have a job anymore.
yeah, my former employer thought I contaminated his plant with PCB, so I don't think he wanted me to have it come back after that.
All right, so that's the early Madman story. And of course, I thought, and I called you Madman because I was convinced you were going to absolutely fry yourself alive and turn into a French fry. There are other people who have been involved in time travel, Mike, that I've had on the show, and honest to God, Mike, they're gone. I don't know where they are, whether it's Titor or Anderson, others that we've had on the show, they're gone. I mean, they're gone. Can't find them. Anyway, so we need to come up to date from the story back then. I know that after I did the show with you, you gave out your phone number and address and stuff on camera.
Yeah.
And by the way, that was you. You volunteered to do that, remember?
Yeah.
I didn't make you
No.
put that on the record.
Yeah, I figured out what bad could happen.
Now you know.
Yeah.
And good. I mean, it was good with that. Yeah. And so at this point, you're out of jail. You want to build something even bigger and better. And there was a good aspect of your being on the show. I mean, you got donations, you got money from people, and help people. You got I believe you got some transformers, right?
Yeah, transformer lamination, so I could build my own. So
right. That's a lot of help, actually.
Yeah, I mean, actually, yeah, I mean, I got some money out of it. The rest of it was actually equipment. So.
And I believe somehow you also came up with a warehouse.
Yeah, that was the beauty of it. Basically, this guy said, "Well, you pay the electric bill, but you can just basically right now it's empty. You can do what you want here for a few months." So it's like, okay, cool, thanks.
Were you re-employed at that point, or?
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the place, but yes, I did have to go. When I got out of jail, I ended up, I was kind of a pariah in Stanbury, so.
Why were you a pariah?
Not many jobs here to begin with, and ended up moving to St. Coast when I got out of jail, so.
Well, I would think after the show you would have been almost a hero in town. But you said
not everybody is like, oh, he's the nutcase that built the time machine. So
yeah.
So
okay. All right. So you were now at a new location, and now you've got a warehouse, and you've got enough money to be dangerous. So you, at this point, start building what?
Well, long story short, I realized that actually I did a lot of thinking in jail. When I was in jail, what could have caused this? 60 days in jail, that gives me a lot of time to think.
It does.
So I ended up basically, long story short, I realized that it would be more efficient if I used magnetic. Because I was thinking maybe it's rotating plasma that causes this.
Right.
So I figured, okay, maybe it'll be more efficient if I use, instead of using basically heat from a laser in a cold room, the differential, the temperature difference between those two to stir the plasma, maybe even more efficient if I use a magnetic field to stir it. So that's what I ended up doing.
Use the magnetic field to do what?
Basically, it's in simple terms, this thing looks like basically a plasma tornado. So,
how do you form a plasma tornado?
Well, basically, this thing looks like I think on when I told you about this during the second interview, like back in late '96, early '97, I can't remember when it was. Basically, it looks like you call it a Stargate. It's not really, well, it doesn't exactly look like Stargate SG-1, but because it's the one, it's vertical instead of horizontal. So,
Okay, but again, what formed it?
well, what it ended up using was a bunch of cascaded transformers.
Cascaded transformers. So how much, at that point, how much voltage were you producing?
3 million volts at 1 amp. There's 24 phases. So
3 million volts at an amp.
yeah,
Good God. That's enough.
yeah, that was basically big spark. So,
And you were pulling this from the power company. This time, I presume.
not all over from the power company. Basically, I had generators too. Basically, I was trying to avoid raising the stink of the utility. So I learned from that too. So
Yes. Okay. So you built a large Jacob's ladder. I mean, this time, how big?
well, at this point, it wasn't really. It wasn't really a purpose Jacob's ladder. Basically, it was what it was basically two strings, like the concentric, like two cylinders, one cylinder inside the other,
Right.
with a magnetic, with another, basically a circle of magnetic electromagnets around it, stirring it. Basically, you got a bunch of plasma like inside of it with a magnetic field rotating it.
You know, what you are describing, I'm sure you've heard stories of the Philadelphia experiment, right?
Yeah.
Well, they described a similar electronic setup with regard to the rotating magnetic fields. Is this where, I mean, did you get any of that story? I mean, is that where some of your idea came from?
Not directly. I mean, I've heard of it basically, but I didn't know. I knew they used RF. Well,
Right.
I was at the other side of the spectrum. I was using low frequencies. So in the plasma, it wasn't just like from my original Jacob's ladder, it was just plain old 60 hertz sine wave AC that you get from any outlet. Well, this was, I was using square waves where I could actually, it was easy controlling the duty cycle, is easy to control voltage that way.
Right.
Because you can't really find, it's hard to find variacs rated at megawatts. So,
Man, I'll tell you, using square waves, I bet the ham operators heard you for miles.
well, that was the beauty of the warehouse. There was metal to it after the number of days.
Okay, did you wind all these electromagnets yourself?
Yep.
So you must have been like in that warehouse every day.
Well, yeah, I mean, basically, I lived in St. Louis, Missouri, but the warehouse itself, if I remember right, was over on Kansas, which is basically a suburb of Kansas City. So, yeah, I never belonged to you. Most of the time I didn't hang out. I just hung out at the warehouse. Most of the time I just left at the warehouse. So.
Right, got it. So you've got these rotating magnetic fields, and then you said a cylinder inside a cylinder.
Yeah, it's just two metal rods. It's working between basically, at any one time, there's actually 23 sparks because it's actually each one of those 3 million volts. There are 15 degrees out. There's 24 phases, 15 degrees out of phase. It's like 3-phase industrial power, but 120 degrees out of phase for that. This is like 24 phases, 15 degrees from each other. So.
Okay, so you two of them separated in a Jacobs-like ladder configuration, right?
Yeah.
And then these rotating magnetic fields. By now, you're using a lot of power.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the warehouse had, if I remember right, the warehouse had 400 amp three-phase 480 available, but even that couldn't do it all by itself.
At some point, look, what I'm working with here is not just a little dangerous. It's kill me dead dangerous.
Oh yeah, I mean, it only takes 50 to 100 milliamps to kill you, and this is an amp, so.
Yeah, that's right. All right.
And it only takes and with that kind of current, it only takes maybe a couple thousand volts to get that kind of current flowing through you, and this is 3 million. So.
Well, yeah, I think in the electric chair it's like 2,500 volts, something like that.
Yeah.
This is 3 million volts there now. All right, so it took you how long to build this thing to the point where you're ready to test?
I would say probably 18 months, I guess.
18 months.
Yeah, but basically, the guy that owned the warehouse, the deal was like maybe 3 months or so, and it ended up, he kept like, well, this is pretty cool. Okay, I'll go ahead and let you stay a little longer. Stay and stay a little longer.
So he actually came and checked out your act?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I figured, well, he's nice enough to let me know in the warehouse. I let him out, basically let him watch too, so.
Sure. And do you want to see the big test?
Well, yeah, I mean, him and basically everybody that donated stuff, I more or less let them in on the project, so.
Okay. Wow. All right, so I remember talking to him.
Altogether, I think there was 25, maybe 30 people. So,
for the big test.
Yeah.
I really wanted to come out there myself. And I'm going to be honest with you, Mike, I thought you were dead for a long time.
Yeah, you know what? I bet the people that donated too one day ended up disappearing because they're getting out of it or something.
We all know that, but honestly, I thought you were dead. I thought you were gone. I was pretty sure you had fried yourself, or that you had been. And I thought about this too, Mike, that you might have been successful, and you might be in a different time. And anyway, let's continue. So the big test comes. All these people are watching. You fire the generators up. You've got the incoming power. And what was your test going to be?
Well, at first I was tossing basically hamsters and guinea pigs in it. So yeah, living small things before. I'm not just going. I mean, at the time I had basically almost infinite risk tolerance, I guess you could put it.
Well, anyway, okay, so hamsters and guinea pigs, how did they fare? I mean, what happened?
Well, basically, instead of this is basically like the original experiment where I made a screw disappear for half a second. Well, these guinea pigs, they were disappearing for anywhere from 1 to 2 minutes, and they were basically either 100 between 50 and 150 yards east west of where they disappeared.
East or west of the point of disappearance, but not north or south?
West of I mean, at first it was just what it is, and it's basically made it disappear farther and farther away. So, and yeah, but all like something that as it expect, basically, the further away it was, the harder it was to find them.
Sure. But I have witnesses at that point, or not. Yes, you did. Okay.
Yeah, and I was actually getting videos of all this stuff.
So you have that video.
Wow, that's what sucks. We'll get to that part eventually.
Right. All right. Anyway, you were getting video of it, and you were tossing these animals through. How big was this thing at this point?
Oh, it was basically going from memory. I would say about the outer diameter of it was about 17 feet, maybe 15 feet tall.
Really?
35 feet off the ground. Basically, well, 3 million volts is difficult to insulate. Now, basically that was actually part of the reason for the 24 phase stuff, because basically adjacent phases are a lot less voltage than 3 million. The reference to ground is still 3 million volts, so, and 3 million volts will jump 27 feet, so.
Oh my God, so 35 feet you say?
Yeah, it was raised, the whole contraption where, well, the hot part of it was, 35 feet off the ground, off the floor. So. And the thing itself was 15, basically from the bottom of it to the top of it was about 15 feet. So
these people and you could observe these animals disappearing and then find them. And when you found them, were they intact?
yeah, I mean, they were perfectly fine as far as I could tell. I mean, obviously they can't talk and report me and they feel or anything. Yeah. But as far as like physical condition, they were fine. So
What at that point, Mike, oh God, I'm sure you can't think we're in another realm here. I mean, what we're doing with these animals at this point is what? They disappear, they reappear elsewhere. So if they travel in time, they certainly travel in space, and they certainly disappeared. So at this point, what are we talking about?
well, I don't know. At first, I didn't know if it was the problem. Basically, sometimes it took hours to find these things. And I don't know if that was because they were gone for hours and they just had to now find them, or basically we just found them. They were like gone that whole. Basically, they were gone that whole time. Or I mean, the smaller scale stuff. What was happening? Basically, they were basically disappeared and then they reappear again. So.
And so it's hard to tell if they ran from where they appeared.
Yeah.
Outside
and well, I mean, with the inanimate objects, basically, I mean, at first I was trying, like, basically things like baseballs, fruit, stuff like that. So.
And the same thing happened to the inanimate objects.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that stuff's not called run, so.
No, but where did it show up?
Things like, I mean, the small scale, the low power test, basically anywhere from a few feet to a few yards from where they disappeared.
So the higher the voltage and power, the further away they would go.
Yeah, well, I mean, keep in mind, plus, that's another thing I was trying to figure out was what exactly controls where this stuff shows up at. Was it the voltage of the power over the speed of the rotating magnetic field or what? So.
All right, and that's where we're going to leave it. Wow. I'm beginning to learn new things now. I was sort of caught up to a point, but there's much more to come. Mike, Madman Markham is my guest. I believe he's achieved time travel.
Illustrated dialogue sequence with our call. Please coordinate your languages and call 1-952-225-5278 and 1-952 call or hold your calls. Hold your call. Everybody, like Madman Markham is my guest. And we have now covered the early years, I guess is really the way to put it. So, Michael, welcome back. And somebody asked a question, it goes back to this, wanting to know, how do BB gun shots warrant a search warrant? Well, remember, on that search warrant also were the transformers, which means either they knew ahead of time. Did you ever find out, Mike, did they know ahead of time, or did they go there and say, oh, look at that, let's go get a search warrant?
Well, yeah, maybe, but this is just a guess. But I'm guessing, my guess is that the guy that got busted for the DP thing, he more or less spilled the beans on me to get him so he could get a lighter sentence or something. I don't know. That's what my guess is. I never have figured out exactly what happened.
All right, do me a favor and back about an inch away from the phone. It's really a good connection, actually.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I hear you fine. It just eliminates the popping. Okay. All right, so now here we are. You're experimenting with animals. They're turning up elsewhere. They're disappearing and then turning up elsewhere. So you've got to sit down and start. I'm sure you were asking yourself, okay, so what the hell's happening here? What am I doing to these creatures? Obviously, they're okay, but is it time travel? Is it just shifting? Is it disappearance and shifting of location? Or, I mean, you had to begin to wonder about the theory of what was going on.
The low power tests, they were actually, they weren't just stopping once it was like disappear in the center of the tornado and reappear like nearby right away. Sometimes they would disappear for a minute, sometimes 2 minutes. So,
well, when did you begin considering? I remember interviewing you, and you were considering yourself. You were considering trying this thing yourself, and that's what I last remember, and that's why I thought you were dead.
I got pretty confident. I got pretty bold and confident after so many successful tests. There was one test where I tried a grapefruit or an orange. I can't remember what it was. It was something similar to that, some citrus fruit. And that was never retrieved. So I don't know if it ended up in space, disintegrated, or what. But I tossed, if I remember right, I tossed in like 200 objects, animals, all together. There was like 200 tests. So
that warehouse
unretrieved. So
that warehouse must have smelled like ozone.
Oh my God! Basically, there's on the roof, if I remember right, or near the top of the roof, there was like ventilation fans, and we had to keep those running to keep from poisoning everybody from the nitrous oxide. So
all right, so now take me forward as you will, because I kind of don't know what happened next. I thought you were going to jump into this thing, and I thought you were going to fly alive, and that's like the last thing I remember.
Basically, eventually, I ended up testing it on myself because, like I said earlier, basically hamsters and guinea pigs can't talk.
No, you had to give an awful lot of thought before trying it yourself. I mean, for one thing, a hamster or a guinea pig is really small compared to
the inside. That's a concern because the inside diameter of this thing is only like 5 feet across. So and keep in mind the top of this thing is like 50 feet off the ground. So, if it doesn't work, if I jump in and it doesn't work, my legs or my neck. So,
absolutely. So there's so many points of failure. You could jump through and keep going, and as you point out, hit the floor and break probably your neck and be dead. Or you could jump through. Part of you would touch the wrong thing, and what would happen to you if you'd done that?
That's most of the scenes, which as far as the electricity goes, most of it, I wasn't about to test the theory and find out, but the inner electrode, I guess you could say, was grounded. So, usually if you touch a grounded object with that kind of voltage, you're going to get a piece. You won't necessarily get the whole 3 million, basically 3 megawatts, but you'll still get a piece of them, probably enough to kill you. So,
you climb up, and I can't even imagine. I mean, you had everything turned on, humming like crazy, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably, what were you on, a ladder?
Cherry picker.
A cherry picker. So here you are on a cherry picker, and you got to figure out how to jump out of the cherry picker and through.
Yep, and I ended up just crawling on top of the bucket. So.
And how long did you sit there and think about it before you jumped?
That's the thing. I figured if I think about it too long, I'm going to check it out here. I mean, normally, like I said, I had almost infinite risk tolerance at the time. I mean, somebody dared me to do something, no matter what it was, I'd probably do it. So, I mean, a lot of 20-year-olds are like that. So
they are, and a lot of them never make 30.
Yeah, but ended up. I don't know. I guess I thought of it about a minute or two. Basically, made sure the camera was right. Because, like I said, if I would have thought about it too much, I'd have said, "Okay, this is dumb. I'm not doing it." So,
well, why not? I mean, this is an obvious question to me. I would have some kind of cushioning, like they do with stuntmen, where they have cardboard boxes and other stuff, so that if you did hit the floor, you might live.
Well, keep in mind, the only thing insulating the bottom of this was air. If I stuck it, well, there's between the bottom of that thing and the floor is basically 300 volts trying to get the ground. It basically burn anything you set basically you set underneath it. Even with 35 feet of distance, you get a lot of current. So,
absolutely. Well, 35 feet is definitely enough to kill you if you land the wrong way, and probably kill you no matter what.
yeah.
All right, so you climb up on the bucket and you jump. And then what?
Well, long story short, it feels like I got hit with a flashbang, and I wake up and I'm 800 miles east of there, and 2 years later. So that's basically, I think, no other way to put it.
800 miles east and 2 years gone.
Yeah, well, basically what I did, I more or less, well, it's not very scientific in hindsight, but what I did is cranked everything max, basically to the max. So, because I wanted to make sure that I actually leave, because I didn't hit the floor.
So when you woke up, did you have memory of what you had done? I mean, what condition were you in when?
Well, when I came through the other side, so to speak, I had total amnesia. That's EMF and that's all that magnetism basically messed with my brain. So.
It sure would. I believe, like other mammals, we have magnetite, don't we? In our brains.
Well, I mean, it's basically your brain's electrochemical. So basically, yeah, magnets will mess with electric fields.
So how could possibly about 200 miles, and it was east, you say?
Yeah, well, yeah, this was in Overland Park, Kansas, and I ended up, well, the nearest town I landed near was like Fairfield, Ohio. You can Google map that. That's basically roughly 800 miles east. So
800 miles.
It took me quite a while to figure out basically to remember what the heck I did, and then I figure out, okay, where the heck am I? So.
And where were you? I mean, when you woke up, were you on the ground? Were you in the middle of shopping center?
In the middle of the field. So.
Oh, that's actually at least lucky, I guess.
I guess it rides the Earth's gravitational field, so I don't end up in space. So, which was basically one of my other concerns if I tried to leave too far. So,
of course. Oh my goodness. So, here you are coming. Your clothes were okay. You were okay. You were strong.
I was saying you just okay. Basically, I wasn't on fire. Other than basically my nervous system was screwed up. It was basically the equivalent of getting hit with a flashbang for I'd say anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. I mean, I couldn't for a minute. I don't name so.
For a minute, I get that. Okay, that's shock. You weren't shocked, thoroughly. How quickly did your memory begin to come back?
I would say probably an hour. It took me probably an hour or so to get my bearings, and it's like, okay. I mean, in 1995, I don't remember if they had GPS or not. I know, well, actually, this is okay, that's another thing, too. Basically, I did this in 1998, and on the other side, when I landed in Ohio, that was 2000. So.
2000?
Yeah, so basically not only did I jump 800 miles, but I skipped over 2 years too. So actually a little over 2 years.
This is all the time I thought you were dead.
And from everybody else's point of view, for 2 years I didn't exist. I mean, if you basically do a Social Security search on me, for 2 years it won't be a peep.
Oh, I believe it. Trust me, I believe it. I searched for you. I looked for you, and you did not exist. It's true. So we're on the story. All right, so now you're slowly beginning to remember, but at this point you don't have a home. You're 800 miles away from where you ought to be. or where you started. And as your memory slowly comes back, and when you do, you go up to somebody's door, knock on the door, or wander into a town, or what?
Yeah, eventually, it's like, okay, well, it's in the middle of a field. I figured, okay, just maintain one direction. Eventually, you'll hit a road. Well, at least if I get a road, I'll have some idea where I am. And basically, long story short, I ended up meandering my way to Fairfield, which is, it's not exactly a small town. It's just north of Cincinnati. So, ended up from basically, okay, from Fairfield, it's like, okay, I know where I am now. So, and the long story short, I ended up going from Fairfield to a homeless shelter because keep in mind, after a few hours, it's like, okay, I remember my name now. So,
Madman, did your ID, did you have your wallet with you? I presume you probably removed any metallic objects before you jumped.
Yeah, which included my ID, my credit cards, and all that. So, because it went, with these magnetic fields, they've never been erased anyway.
So you didn't even have ID on you?
No, I had to go to the DMV. Basically, eventually, once I figured remember my name, after a couple of days, I remember my social security number, so I had to go to the DMV and get another one.
Holy smokes. So here you are utterly homeless, without ID. You slowly begin to get ID again. You're staying in a homeless shelter, and you have no memory of those years.
No, basically, it's weird. Basically, it erased. I can still remember like old memories, but basically the newer stuff, like from the previous 5 years or whatever, I couldn't remember squat. So, like I said, for a while I couldn't even remember my name, but eventually I got that back. So, and actually, that was the first thing I got back, and then I remembered. Okay, it started coming back to me. So.
So weird. All right, we'll play short break. Like Madman Markham is my guess. This man has traveled in time. Some of the weather stuff is over everything. All I got to from the high desert of the North American Southwest. This year's Mid-Atlantic Desert takes literally almost our desert network. Call the show, dial 1-952, call Art, that's 1-952-225-5270, respectively. 18, 20 years later, this is Mike and Man Markham. All right, Mike, this is such a beautiful story. And I really do, again, I want to add myself that I searched so hard for you, and you were just,
That's another weird thing too. Sometimes, I'm sure everybody's Googled their own name before, but yeah, I guess there was hundreds of other people looking for me too. So,
when you were picking yourself up off the ground, Dale, I get these computer messages, they're helpful, wants to know, did you need a shave?
No, that was, from my point of view, I was only gone a couple of seconds. I think. The closest approximation I can think of is as far as experiencing this for myself. It felt like I got hit with a flashbang. That's the closest approximation of it.
Yeah, fair enough. But a lot would have changed if your body had actually spent a linear 2 years. You'd be shaggy, you'd have a long beard, you'd have long fingernails.
Yeah. That's the thing from my point of view. It only took a couple of seconds.
So when did you first learn, oh my God, it's the year 2000?
At the homeless shelter. Long story short, I ended up, I already mentioned we got to the homeless shelter in downtown Cincinnati.
You told me you went there, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, eventually I made myself to a homeless shelter in Cincinnati, and, well, every day you get a newspaper, there, and it's like, wait a minute, this is 2000.
So at this point, you've got to either figure, no, there's only one thing you can figure, and that is that you, in fact, traveled in time. Because otherwise, the things I just talked about would have been true. You would have been shagging, you would have been with giant long fingernails, and so you did travel in time. And when did that hit you? That, my God, I really did it.
It took actually, when I seen that, well, the time travel movies don't really, basically, they don't really depict it accurately, like the reaction to people when they realize they've done that. So, I mean, I was in shock for a while, so.
Well, movies need a little romance and drama and stuff like that, so your fear factor can mess with things. But it must have dawned on you that, my God, I actually did it. I traveled in time. And then I guess, so you began to establish yourself. You got an idea again. Did you get a job? Did you stay in the area?
I got a few, basically got a few temporary jobs. Eventually I got to most of my memory back. I mean, even today, there's still holes in it. So, long story short, I ended up basically saving up, getting a few temp jobs and saving up the money, and ended up going back to basically catching a Greyhound back there. And
so you catch a Greyhound home. I'm sure you want to go back to the warehouse and see what's what, right?
Yeah, and go back there and basically go back there and it's gone, basically everything. And
you don't mean the warehouse?
Well, no, the warehouse. No, the warehouse. Keep in mind that basically this was back in 2000, like 15 years ago. So I go back there, and the warehouse is there, but it's basically all my stuff inside is gone. So
gone. That's a lot of stuff to be gone.
Yeah, 2 years. This is all I got. Plenty of time for. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know. Because basically, I was going to try to hunt down all my donors, and basically, that's another thing too. I couldn't remember the people that donated. So.
And a lot of people did, I guess, donate, huh?
Yeah, like I said, probably 25 or 30 people. So.
All right, so here you are. You're back at the warehouse, and it's empty. All your stuff is gone.
And I'm wondering, okay, what happened to it?
Of course.
Yeah,
and also you had.
And basically, I was gone, like trying to fill in the past 2 years of what happened, and with everything, the whole darn planet. So.
Yeah, so I'm going to do something all the time. Anyway, did you get the owner of the warehouse try to find out what had occurred, or what next?
Well, that's the thing. I couldn't remember the guy's name.
So we're not going to reveal where you are now. We're just saying you're in a secreted away location, which happens to be really true. My producer got you to a special place for this interview tonight, right? Don't say where it is.
Yeah, kind of.
Put your hands
I keep
up.
that to myself. Like I said, live and learn.
Yes, we're indeed.
Put your hands up.
So what is ahead for Madman now?
Put your hands up.
Basically, eventually I'm going to try to rebuild that thing and test and see basically
Put your hands up.
if I'm going to do that again or not.
Say what?
Like I said, that kind of messed with my head.
Say what?
If you build again, and I have this
Put your hands up.
really strong feeling that you will, would you build to a even larger scale? Would you, in other words, attempt to prove to the scientific community what you say is true, or what would your objective be if you build again?
Well, that was basically, keep in mind, when I said everything's gone, even my documentations of it I don't know what happened to it. So, which kind of, I mean, even the time machine itself, even if I still had to do all my notes and stuff from it, basically I could say, okay, here, basically I could give it to the world, say, here's what I did, repeat it. But I mean, if you can't repeat it, it's, the whole thing's kind of useless. So,
Well, not really, not useless, but it would be wonderful to be able to document this. There have been some businesses interested in the article that we have up on the website about you and about everything that occurred. And they feel like it's something important, and they didn't know what happened in the theater.
yeah. Oh yeah, they brought up that well, if that's true, it might don't be pretty well supported with every lightning strike. But then yeah, though.
Yeah, but that's not fair. That's not fair.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really stir a lightning strike. It's there and constantly.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, your magnetic fields could essentially stir it, and you were almost soup or fried chicken.
Well, that's the thing about it. I didn't even have one single RF mark or anything on me. So, I mean, it's a magnetic field mess with my brain. So, other than that.
Do you remember enough of your system that if you wanted to rebuild it now, you could?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's not 100%, but I would say probably between 90 and 95%. So the rest I could basically do the trial and error thing and figure it out again. So
Do you
say right now is, I mean, keep in mind this thing probably costs several $1 million. So if I actually had to pay cash for everything,
right?
So
Mike, do you think that time travel in either direction is possible or only forward?
Well, here's the thing. For my previous experiments, it was going in reverse. At first, it's like I tried to hold the portal open, so to speak, and basically that way I can walk through and then basically come back to where I started again.
Yeah.
Well, every time I've tried that, I've crashed the power grid. It takes way too much energy. It's basically, I agree with all the other physicists as far as that goes. Basically, backwards time travel. Well, let's put it this way. Basically, time travel does not work the way Hollywood depicts it.
Oh, I've got that.
I mean, yeah, you can basically go backwards in time, but not to any point you pick. I mean, basically, I was like, oh, cool, I want to go see Christ. I want to go see Christ's crucifixion. Well, unless you build a time machine at 0 or 4 BC or whatever, actually 33 AD or whatever, unless you actually build a machine at that time and have it powered up at that time, you can't return to that time. So if I build a machine, long story short, if I have the machine powered up tomorrow,
Yes.
I can't come back to today.
So those 2 years, it's like they just don't exist for you, which means that you did not age during those 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, long story short, I mean, as far as the time travel aspect of it is, it basically works the same way as general or basically relativity.
All your long stories are, I'm noticing, short. So we've got a good long show. That long, so you can make long stories medium. That'd be all right. Right, hold tight. Mike Madman Markham is my guest. 18 to 20 years. That's a 2-year difference between our interviews. 2 years, the man was gone. I'm Art Bell. The night in the deserts and blue to call us from outside the U.S. and Canada only. Use Skype with a headset mic on the computer and call LITD 55. That's LITD 55. All right, so what we're going to do is open the line. Well, actually, let me do 2 things.
Number one, I am now on Periscope. I promise that. And frequently on Fridays, we do sort of a Periscope session. So hello there, if you're watching. Generally seeing the back of my head, can't be very exciting. But you can see the show kind of in motion from that angle. So I set it up that way rather than facing me and my ugly mug, no point in that. So we have classic stuff here. Mike Madman Markham. We've now heard his story, I think, to date. I'm sure there's much more to say. For example, weren't the police there or somebody to stop you from jumping through? They had to know that you were building up to it, right?
Well, that's the thing. I kind of after all the publicity, I basically the only people that knew about it is people that donated. So I never told anybody else. Other people I were nobody. So.
Well, that really doesn't make sense to me because somebody surely would have stopped you, right?
I don't know if they would or not. I mean, technically, it'd be kind of hard to prove it a suicide attempt. I mean, when exactly was it?
They might have looked at that equipment and figured out it was going to be a suicide, whether no matter what. Hold on one second, Cardi. So phone lines are open, folks. Here it is. Finally, they're open. You can ask questions if you would like, and I'm sure you have questions. This is a man who's traveled time. Area code 952. 225-5278. Put a 1 in front of that. 1-952-225-5278. If you're calling on site, MITD 51, or outside North America, MITD 55. They probably would have, I think, Madman figured you were going to do yourself in, and they, somebody would have stopped you, I'm sure.
No, nobody did.
Nobody did, as it turns out, but had they...
If you check out, I mean, there's plenty of YouTube videos where everybody, I mean, they actually have suicide videos on YouTube. And, yeah, I mean, there's just about everything on YouTube. I mean, if you look hard enough, but there's all sorts of weird things on YouTube, and including that stuff. And including some guys standing on top of... electric trains, basically just reaching up and grabbing the 25,000 volts of power of the train, and when you do that, it's actually like a bug. So
that's right. All right. Somebody wants to know because there was a rumor, Mike, that you did an experiment with a cat. Is that true or not?
No, I don't know where that came from. Somebody made that up due to lack of information because after the first round of publicity, I just got all made up my mind. It's like, oh God, I can't stand being a celebrity. So.
No, you don't. I know you don't seek out fame. I'm very well aware that you don't seek out fame, Mike. And so it's an honor to have you on the show. It really is.
Well, yeah, no, not everybody. I mean, like every Hollywood actress or actress, whatever. I mean, not all of them basically like the limelight. So I'm I compare myself to Jodie Foster. I mean, I don't mind basically every now and then, but as far as people knocking on my door 24/7. It's really, I mean, it's just, to me, it's disconcerting having somebody I don't know run up to me and ask for my autographs. So.
I know the feeling. Go to restaurants and people want to, anyway. Listen, Mike, people want to know, if you were to do this again, I mean, let's think about it for a second. You could conceivably hopscotch into the future again and again and again. Maybe you could figure out a way to do it with less trauma to your own person. And, you would still be a young man in the year 20, whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the problem is it's a one-way trip. I mean, it's like the same thing as using relativity.
Yes.
So,
well, it is a one-way trip.
Well, that's the advantage of everybody. It's already been scientifically proven you can use gravity to dilate time. Well, basically, I'm using electromagnetism, which is 10 to the 30th times stronger.
Right.
I don't need basically a black hole to do this. So.
You know they're getting ready to try to create a black hole at CERN. Do you have any thoughts on what might happen when they do?
Well, they're going to be basically. I'm with everybody else, like as far as all the other physicists, as far as that goes. They'll be so small they'll evaporate almost immediately.
I hope you're right. I really hope that's what happens.
Well, I mean, if not, they'll follow the Earth at nearly the speed of light, and we won't even see it coming. So.
Yeah, it'll be over. So like that. All right, on Skype, you are on the air with Madman. Hi. I think it's somebody named Torch. You're on the air. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, Art? Welcome back.
And you?
I wanted to ask, the key thing that you really need the most is funding, right?
Funding or equipment. So.
Okay, well, if you could travel into the future, or even if you could travel into the past, the number one thing would be to find out what the numbers are going to be for tomorrow and come back and run those numbers, and you'd be able to fund yourself with millions of dollars.
Well, I mean, obviously that's the first thing I thought. I actually had a reporter ask me that back in 1995 when it's like, what were you planning to do with this thing?
Right.
When I actually told him I'm going to go into the future, get the lottery numbers, and then come back and give them to myself. I mean, when I told him that, I was actually laughing when I said it. It was a joke. I mean, I didn't think they would take it seriously. They hung on every word I said, so.
That would be the key to do, though, don't you think?
Well, that's the problem stopping me from doing that, though, is I don't know how to go in reverse. I mean, like I said, I can't go back before I turn this thing on. The best I can do is if I turn it on today, I can go to tomorrow and then come back to today, but I have to keep the thing on the whole time. And that takes so much energy, I can't do it. It can't be done.
Yeah, he's asking if there's any way you can send back information.
I haven't really looked into that. I mean, I've heard of other people, like this one guy supposedly made a TV that could see the future or whatever, but I haven't figured out how to do that yet. So
what would really bother me is to lose you. I mean, really lose you. I thought you were lost for 2 years, Mike, and now I just have this feeling that you're going to rebuild somehow.
Well, that's the eventual goal anyway. So I mean, it may or may not happen. Now, if there's I can't. If it happens at some point in the future, I can't really say it didn't happen. But there's a story floating around me on the internet where I ended up back in 1930 crested some tube with a cell phone in my hand or something. Well, as far as I know, that didn't happen. But that's not to say that I don't do it at some point in the future. I don't see how, because I don't know how to go back to any arbitrary point in the past. So
I've got to say that even going forward in hops and holding your youth at the same time, if you didn't have to end up with a headache, no ID in the middle of the field somewhere, would be pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, the foolish, looking back on it, the foolish thing I done, I mean, basically was I didn't when I jumped into it. I didn't think I needed one.
Yes.
I know better now, so.
Yes, you did. All right. Let's go to Kansas City on the phone. Hi, you're on the air.
Hello, Art. How you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of things for you. I'm a skeptic. I love your time travel talk. I love hearing it. I love reading it. It's great.
Are you a skeptic of what Mike did?
Well, not necessarily. The proof is in the pudding, naturally, okay? The thing that bothers me on a situation like this, you travel in time, you lose track of 2 years, person goes in a coma, okay? My thing is a two-way travel. You go forward, you come back. You go back, you come forward.
Well, that would be ideal.
It would be ideal, and it would be the real truth, okay? And the other thing, and Mike, this is for you, okay? I have a lot of close family, a lot of close loved ones keep track of me. What did your family say or think this time you were gone?
Oh, good question. A really good question. How about it, Mike?
Well, they thought I vaporized myself, so they were freaked out.
Did they submit any reports to the police? Did they, a missing person report or anything?
Actually, well, that's actually one of the first things I did when I was in that homeless shelter. I ended up going to the library, doing a search myself, and see if and nothing turned up. So basically, I don't know if they filed missing persons or not. But it's way they said they did, but I can't find anything. So.
All right. Here's somebody named Clay who is on the wormhole saying, has Madman ever considered creating a Kickstarter page to fund yet another project with the proper funding? He could even keep a video blog to report his results, thus proving the experiment works.
You know what? That's actually, I never actually considered that. I mean, usually with Kickstarter, it's things with well, I mean, with at large, there's probably so much skepticism. I don't think I could get that much anyway. So, but
It's not bad.
It's actually an idea. I mean, one of your original callers from from '95, they asked me if I was going to be publishing. Well, I'm not your typical, basically one of your other guests. Most of the other guests already have like a book published or whatever, and then they go on your show to promote it.
Yes, I know. You don't have a book to sell, right?
Yeah, I don't. It's like I've never. That's my weak thing. On the technical side, I'm a math and science guy. As far as basically the English side of it, when I was in college, I barely passed that.
All right. Here's what I recommend, Mike. Seriously. There will be a lot of people who would be willing to co-author for you or co-author for you. So in other words, you could, in detail, with drawings, if you can remember, of the equipment, the warehouse, the whole thing, everything that's happened beginning to end, as you told it on this story, on this show rather, but in more detail, and write a book. I recommend you do it. Now, I'm not sure how we can actually.
Well, I did remember Stephen Hawking's publisher said every formula including this is going to cut yourself in half.
If we have a publisher who would like to do this, how about I have them contact my producer, you know her, very nice girl, Heather.
Yeah.
Right? And maybe you should make a book deal, Mike.
Yeah, else is going to write it. I mean, I could write all the technical, basically the meat and potatoes of it, and they can more or less do the rest. So.
And if anything deserves to be published, it's this. And that it would go a long way toward, I think, funding any project you want as just an idea. David, you're on with Madman Markham. Hello.
Art, man, look at that. I see you in Periscope.
Oh, hi.
Question for Mark, or Mike. So,
go ahead.
Yes, so, I mean, it's intriguing because you don't really have an angle on this. I mean, you don't have a book deal, like you said before. Art kind of found you back in '95. So what about the witnesses? I mean, is there anyone out there that can corroborate your story? I mean, where are they at? Maybe we can find them tonight. I don't know.
Well, I mean, basically, like I said, I can't remember. There was what's her name? Her last name was Sanderson. That's the only one I can remember. So, yeah, really, there was like 25 or 30 people that basically were there when I was running this thing. So.
All right, just like the police officer who contacted me and actually went on the air. I mean, how often does that ever happen?
That was I just said it earlier. Oh, Tom Hampton.
I'm sure you could be found. I'm sure there's some other people who were funding you.
I mean, when he's actually still an officer in Stanbury, as far as I know. So.
Wow.
So yeah, basically, small town people, they more or less grow up and die there. So.
I can find, some of the people that were there in the warehouse,
Right. I think it's a wonderful idea, caller. Thank you very, very much. And put it all together, chronicle it in a book as best as you can remember it. I understand that your memory got harmed, certainly, and that's not a surprise.
It's like when I was talking to Heather like yesterday. I was like, yeah, and I was like telling her about this experiment where they're basically taking these 8 Tesla magnets, which is a really, really strong magnet, but they actually got it. The tech is mature enough where they actually make that handheld. And they were actually doing showing it all for the Discovery Channel, where they're actually taking that thing, pulsing it into some guy's brain, and he's counting from 1 to 10 while this thing's pulsing in his head, and it was actually messing with the speech centers where you couldn't talk, where you couldn't count.
I believe it. I absolutely believe it. So
it's like these guys are being like, oh my God, you guys really know more about this than I do, and you're still doing it.
it's almost like you were in a timeless coma for 2 years. I don't know how else to think about it. I mean, you've got to ask yourself. I certainly asked, where was that man for 2 years? Where were you? Did you simply jump through that time and land on the field? It seems that way.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I didn't, like I said, I didn't physically age as far as I could tell. I mean, my fingernails were the same length as they were. I didn't have that, not even one day's growth of facial hair. So, I mean, as far as I could tell, I just skipped over that 2 years. So.
All right, let's stay with the phone and go to next, whatever next is. Hello.
Hey, Art, this is Tom. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Tom. What's up?
Yeah, I just for the show, unfortunately, ask, did you have any feedback from the government or anything? Did any government officials get in contact with you? I mean,
that's a very, very good question.
I mean, well, that's the thing. I mean, Hollywood, basically, they'd have me, the Men in Black show up and make me disappear. Well, obviously that didn't actually happen. So,
did anybody from the government at all contact you?
No, basically you would think they would. I'm sure they have spy satellites everywhere, so I'm sure they know about it. But no, I didn't hear a peep out of them. Nobody came knocking on my door offering me money saying, "Hey, come work for us. We'll give you all the funding you need." I mean, that happens in every Hollywood movie you ever watch, but
not really.
Reality is a little bit different. So.
It's incredible, Mike. You would think that some government agency, DARPA, somebody.
Yeah, I mean, you think, Department of Energy or DARPA, yeah, really, actually DARPA, because basically they fund all sorts of strange things. So yeah, you think they would be coming, like knocking on my door, checking hand, but no, it didn't happen.
If they were to come to you now, what would you do? Would you cooperate with them or not?
Usually, I mean, the thing with DARPA, well, I don't have first-hand experience with them, but I'm willing to bet they try to militarize basically the check isn't free and clear. There's always strings attached.
I hear that. All right, very quickly, let's try this. You're on the phone and on air.
Hi, Art. What a pleasure to be on the phone with you and with Mike. First of all, I want to say that I appreciate your interest in time travel because you have such an interest. It allows all of us who also have an interest to enjoy these topics in depth. But my question is this. We know obviously that he ended up in our dimension. In other words, when he went through this so-called time machine, he didn't go into like another dimension or an alternate future. He obviously stayed within our own dimension, our own time, our own space. So that begs the question, the Earth is in a different spot 2 years from now. So if he ended up in the same locale, the same dimension as
no, wait a minute. He moved 800 miles, remember?
No. The Earth.
I'm with you. Yeah. So in other words, why didn't he materialize in space? We're at a break and I have to break. So Mike, that is kind of a cool question. And one more considering during the break. I'm like,
The night in the desert doesn't scream calls. We trust you. Remember, begin to say, well, you know, to call the show, please dial 1-952-225-5278. That's 1-952-CALL. Or text the landline number, and you're welcome to give us a call and ask Madman Markham whatever you like. And otherwise, of course, Skype is active and ready, and your pet can call as you were. Mike, welcome back.
Thank you.
Our brother from down under on business, he's wondering if you were upset that you missed the Millennium New Year's Eve.
Well, kinda. Technically, the millennium wasn't depending on who you asked, the millennium didn't start in 2001 anyway, so.
Good point. It is depending on who you ask, indeed. But, of course, just on, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was kind of depressing, but at that point, I was more excited than depressed, so.
I completely understand. All right, I believe it's Trey from Atlanta. Hi, Trey.
Hey, Art, I'm sort of reticent to say this, but, you know, I feel like with Madman here, and it is a huge honor to talk to you. Do you feel like even if you haven't personally, in perhaps this reality, have hit time travel, do you think an alternate version of you has?
That's a pretty cool question. A lot of
if you consider like the multiverse theory, I guess if there's infinite versions of me, I guess so. I mean, if you think of it that way.
It is definitely a possibility.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, by definition, basically, with infinite possibilities, everything that could possibly happen has happened, as far as that goes. I'm kind of more concerned about me rather than alternate me. So.
Well, you are now how old, Mike?
According to my birth certificate, 42, but
Really only 40.
Yeah, biologically I'm 40.
So at 40, you know, you're in your prime. There's no question about it. You're in your prime, and
hopefully with luck I'll have another 40. So,
well, maybe you will. And again, what are you going to do with it? I mean, somebody who's already done the incredible thing that you've done can't just give up.
Oh, of course. Of course not.
So you're going to build, aren't you?
Well, if I can, I will.
Hello there. You're on the air with Madman Markham.
Hi. I think the missing equipment in the warehouse part of your story is the weak link. Because it's easy to find out who owns a commercial building. We all know all you have to do is go to the local courthouse, records department, or a realtor, or an attorney, and they will tell you the name of the owner of the warehouse. And you're much too brilliant, and you're not much too practical to have overlooked this because of losing all of your equipment and your notes. What's your explanation for this?
Mm-hmm. And the video. I want the video too.
Well, basically, like I said, as far as the video goes, all that disappeared with the equipment. But believe it or not, that didn't actually cross my mind. So, as far as like looking up the realtor or the building or whatever. So,
why not? I mean, I would think you would definitely want to know what happened to your stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I would, but like I said, basically, that didn't actually cross my mind. I mean, like I said, at first, I couldn't even remember. I didn't even have the brains to remember my own name. So,
yes, I know that the stuff was there. I know.
When I actually went back there, I actually stayed there for a week. But yeah, believe it or not, the week I was there, I didn't actually think to go to the courthouse.
Do you mean that you stayed in a warehouse for a week when you went back?
No, I mean, no. I didn't. Yeah, I mean, it basically made me really depressed being there and seeing it empty. So I got to go out of there. So.
I totally get that. That would be depressing. It's like, where did everything go? Overseas somewhere. Hi there. You're on the air with Madman.
Hi.
Hi, where are you?
I am in Japan, and for some reason I'm hearing myself. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Good.
I was going to say that I feel kind of like I'm time traveling myself because I'm watching you on Periscope, and it's about 15, 20 seconds ahead of the radio that
It's
I'm
a type of time travel.
Yeah. But I guess I had two questions.
Sure.
One of them, or a question and a comment. One is that on the darker side of things, if everything that we hear is, or even if half of what we hear is true, I would think that they wouldn't really need you, honestly. I feel like to a certain extent, they probably would be way beyond what you're doing, and their only interest would be to shut you up. If anything, they probably just figured out he'll burn himself up or do it wrong or he won't remember, or we've already done that, so we don't care.
Yeah, it's kind of a good point, Mike. If you had done this,
that could be why they haven't knocked on my door. They already know more than I do. So there you go.
And the question
they have billions of dollars to do stuff with. So
I didn't get to hear the whole show yet. I'll go back and listen to it because I'm subscribed. But you talked about the warehouse being empty. Did you have like a house that you were living in the town? Was that still there? Was your like personal possessions and stuff still there? Or did that get,
well, actually, at the time, the house I had at the time was in St. Joseph, Missouri. That was all long gone too. That basically other people were living there now.
So your family or anybody like keep any of your stuff? I mean, do you have any personal belongings or anything? Because I feel like that would be
I basically had to start over. So I'm sure basically I don't know. Well, what happens to stuff when somebody disappears for 2 years?
You will hear when you listen to the rest of the show about his ID being gone, about a lot. Trust me.
More or less, I basically was in the same boat with somebody's house burning down and with all their possessions inside. I basically in 2000 I had nothing. So
I imagine when you went back to the warehouse, I'm sure it was just a gigantic, depressing moment.
Oh yeah, I mean,
here's what I imagine. I imagine that perhaps either whoever owned the warehouse or perhaps the tenant that came to the warehouse after you disappeared, literally, had everything just dragged away somewhere and probably put in, the junkyard. I hate to say that, but
I mean, well, those electromagnets were, probably they sold it for scrap and got quite a bit of money from it because there was a lot of copper in that. So
I know they rip up copper, from radio antennas and radios. They rip that up and sell it as copper. It's horrible what's going on. Daniel, hello, Daniel on Skype. You're on here with Madman.
Hi guys. This is actually Dimitri, and Daniel's my son. He was the one that put the call through, but I just wanted to say that it's a great honor to talk to both Art and Madman Markham. I've listened to the original broadcast back in the mid-90s when I was a teenager, and I was fascinated by the story.
In that case, can you verify that what you heard then is basically what you heard now?
Yeah, I would say so. And as I said, many years went on since the original broadcast, and this story just stuck with me. It was always in the back of my mind. I would think about it every now and again. I always wondered what happened to Madman, and I tried every now and again to hop online and try to see if there was any new information. Just maybe a couple of months ago, I probably spent the whole day digging online and came up with little things here and there, and actually found a story about him, appearing 800 miles away, and I thought for some reason that was some bogus story, but now hearing it from, Michael Markham himself, I gotta say, hey, you know what, that really did happen. But what I wanted to ask is, okay, so there was a warehouse where all of this equipment was set up, and I'm sure all these people were there watching Michael jump in. He disappeared. Obviously, this was there was something to this machine, to all this machinery. It wasn't just a joke. I mean, got either teleported someplace, whether he went, forward or backwards in time. It doesn't matter because either one of those scenarios would still be out of this world, and I just don't see anyone scrapping this stuff. because there's a lot more to it than just, you know, a bunch of transformers sitting around. And I was going to say, tracking these people down wouldn't be that hard because obviously at some point, you know, there's someone's name that was attached to the lease or title.
Of course, you know what else? You know what else is also possible, Connor? That is that somebody did know exactly what happened, and somebody came in who knew what they were doing and took it all away.
Right. And then the other thing I was going to ask is whatever happened to the videotapes? I mean, I know, obviously, you know, Michael doesn't know how to get a hold of any of these guys, but, you know, you would think that if something like this happened and someone got it on video, it's bound to make its way to YouTube. I mean, I've checked all over.
Okay, well, you know, the answer to that is all that stuff, the recording of all this was done in the warehouse. So this stuff was in the warehouse, including the camcorder, right, Mike?
Yeah, a camcorder, several hours of footage, and my personal journal basically were more or less right down the date and basically the experiments that day I did. So,
including, I would imagine, your ID and anything metal you have that you were carrying.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I usually had that on me until the day I was actually going to jump in because I didn't want that basically erasing. So. There's a magnetic stripe on the back, and if you erase that, yeah, you can't sweat. It doesn't work anymore. So,
right, but these people were at the warehouse when everything went down. While video camera was set up, recording the whole event, and so you'd think that one of those guys would probably grab the camera after the fact, or at least grab the tape, so they would have some kind of proof of, hey, you know what? I've witnessed a guy either
that, sir, or they didn't want any evidence of this.
True. Well, in any case, fascinating story. Loved it. And you know what? I hope that Mike can go forward with us. And you know what? Maybe put out a shout out, because I know there's a lot of people who listen to the show that would probably like to contribute, just like the folks back in the day did. And, you know,
you know what I go forward. Okay, thank you. I honestly think that one of the better paths now for Mike might be to find a publicist and sit down with a publicist, and even if you have to do regressive therapy, you know, in order to bring back some of the details that got blasted away when you went through, somehow commit all of this to paper and do exactly what everybody else in the world does, write a book.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking at there's one guy that just, I'm actually looking at the website now. Go to Tom to set up a GoFundMe account.
Yeah, GoFundMe or you know, all that's crowdfunding, right?
Yeah, well, one thing I do want to avoid is, well, I know this one guy, he supposedly had some sort of free energy device, and they end up sending him to prison for securities fraud. So I definitely don't want to basically end up going falling in his shoes.
No, we don't want you back in Pokey again.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, that's what basically, well, he more or less said, I have an engine that runs on water, and well, I guess he ends up filing on his company on the New York Stock Exchange, and then he couldn't deliver, and well, basically they more or less sent him to prison for securities fraud. So
there are a few things that we do know for sure. We know you did the experiment. We know you ended up 800 miles away from the point of the experiment. And we know that 2 years disappeared. People are asking questions about the warehouse, but I kind of understand if everything was gone, you just kind of, I don't know, throw up your hands in dismay, and you'd probably be a little disoriented. Hold tight. Madman Markham is my guess. He is not French fry yet. And he may do it again. The stream. Just let it go.